Good morning and good afternoon. I'm Brian Manning, and I'm here to answer your questions about winning asylum in America. So, look, I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now I'm an asylum lawyer. And as an asylum lawyer, well, my law firm helps immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're watching from. I'm glad to be here with you on this Monday morning, Monday afternoon, Labor Day weekend. I hope that you're getting a break today. I hope some of you at least are off and able to enjoy some relaxation, get a break from the hustle of whatever work you're engaged in. But I want to answer your questions today. I want to talk about winning asylum in America. But look, before you start dropping your questions down in the comments, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. Hey, over on TikTok, Zion, RXB, Litbadia, Chelsea Boy Mahesh, Maz Phenomenal. Glad you're here. Glad to see you over on TikTok. We got folks coming in right now on YouTube. Hey, good morning. Good to see you guys. As always, Facebook. Hello. Ife says, good morning, Brian. Good to join you on the live, says Ife Gaming. Glad you're here, Ife. Thank you. Thanks for being with us. Over on YouTube, Camel says, hey, Brian, happy Labor Day. I'm working but still happy to celebrate it. Okay, that's a good attitude. How are you? How have you been? I've been pretty well, thank you. I watched a lot of college football this weekend, of American football, not like football for the rest of the world, but American football, which I like. Don't get me wrong, I like normal football too, but I really like American football as an American. So I watched a lot of football this weekend, which was fun. So it was a good weekend for me. EP Gaming says I'm in Seattle. Nice, nice. I love Seattle. Beautiful city up there. Love it up there. Hello, Brian. Hey, Brian. I'm from Virginia. Says Armand. Nice. Near Washington D.C. Armand, or further out. Hermela Wadajo says, "Hey, California. Nice. Up in California. Very good. Good morning. Good afternoon for those of you who just joined. I'm Brian Manning, and I'm an asylum lawyer. My law firm is called Political Asylum Lawyers. We're based in Texas, but it doesn't really matter because we help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. That's what we do all day, every day as asylum. We don't do marriage-based immigration cases. We don't do family-based immigration cases. We don't do immigration based on employment or investment or any of that stuff. We do asylum all day, every day. And I want to answer your questions about it today. But first, before you drop your questions, say hello. Let me know in the comments how you're doing today. I'd love to hear where you guys are watching from. And look, if you want to talk with us about your situation, we'd love to do that in the context of a consultation. We want to see if we can help you. And you can schedule that consultation at winasylum.com, 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 okay, to schedule a consultation. Hello from Maryland, says Zion. We got Sarah on TikTok, says, hey, Brian, why is the Boston office? You didn't finish the thought there, but I'm guessing, Sarah, what you were going to say is, why is it so hard to win there? Why is the approval rate so low there? It's a good question. Um, I think it's I think it's the leadership. Oh no, you said do not release decision. What do you mean? They. What do you mean? Do you mean Sarah? Do you mean you've been waiting for a long time for an interview, or I mean, excuse me, for a decision after your interview? What do you mean they do not release decision? Tell me what you mean by that. I'm not sure what you mean. All right. Good morning. Good afternoon. Afternoon for those of you on the East Coast. Good morning for people who are in Texas or the middle part of the country where we're based, or out west. Right. Good morning. Good morning. Let's go. What questions do you have about winning asylum in the United States? Good morning, Yilin Ong on YouTube. Good morning. Good to see you here. Camel says, I'm still not used to American football, LOL. Yeah, it's hard to get used to. It's very different than a lot of other sports. It's complicated, unfortunately, um, but I think it's pretty fun. Near Washington D.C. and Arlington. Nice. Oh yeah, Armand. I've lived there. Like I've spent time there 3 different times in Northern Virginia near D.C. In Falls Church one time, Crystal City in Arlington another time, and in Arlington near Virginia Square. Yeah, I love it up there. I love Northern Virginia near DC. I love DC. Cool. That's back when I was a diplomat and I was there for training. I was there learning languages and learning diplomat tradecraft stuff when I was a diplomat. It was great. I love it up there. Okay. Armand says, "Hey, sir, I have my upcoming immigration court first master hearing on September 10th of 2025. When can the judge give me the final individual hearing? Approximately in 2 or 3 years. Can you tell me?" So, look, the question is this: how long is it going to take between your first hearing in immigration court and your second hearing in immigration court? How much time is between those two? Look, it's impossible to predict this. It changes all the time. There are averages that you can see at different immigration courts, but even when you know the average of the wait time between a master calendar hearing and the individual hearing, it's really not that predictive because you might have a judge that is not in line with that average. They could be much longer, they could be much quicker. It just depends on the judge's caseload. If you know that judge, like if you know if your lawyer is like, oh, we know we've got a lot of cases with this judge and we know about how far out that judge is setting the individual hearings after the master calendar hearing, then you could predict with some confidence, like, oh, it's probably going to be like 3 years, or he's setting them out about 2 years. But that's something that maybe your lawyer would know. So otherwise, it's really impossible to predict, unfortunately. And it could be very soon. It could be a few months, or it could be years, unfortunately, depending on the judge that you're assigned to and their calendar and their availability. All right. Good morning. Uh, oh, nice. Hermela says, I want to thank you for your videos that helped me so much. I won the asylum case now. What is the next step for permanent residency? Awesome. Congratulations, Hermela. I'm really glad to hear that. That's great. And I'm really happy for you. And I'm thankful that you came on here to mention the videos. By the way, those of you who are watching right now on TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, if you want all my best stuff, go to YouTube. YouTube is where I've got my best stuff, okay? In YouTube, you're going to find all kinds of trainings, tutorials, but also just, some of those are super long and detailed. Hermela, I don't know if you watch the very long, detailed trainings or if you're talking about more like just the normal sort of updates and normal tips videos. But in any event, some of them are very detailed, some of them are shorter. But there's a lot of stuff that may help you. Hermela, I'm curious, would you tell us in the chat what do you remember any of the videos that you watched? If you remember one, what was one that was helpful? Was it like the one about the 133 asylum questions you're going to get, or was it how to prepare for the interview, or what was there a particular video that stands out to you as especially helpful? The viewers, everyone following here, might like to hear about that from you, Hermela, since you're telling us that look, the videos helped you win your case. Anyway, for those of you who are not on YouTube watching this, go to YouTube. The YouTube channel is called Political Asylum Lawyers. That's the name of my law firm, and that's the name of the YouTube channel, Political Asylum Lawyers. Okay. All right. What's the current approval rate in the Chicago Asylum office? I have mine in October. It says Green Bay Stay Green. Fun name. The question is this: what's the approval rate at the Chicago Asylum office? I don't know. They haven't published statistics in a long time. It's been 3 or 4 years since USCIS published statistics like this. I can tell you, though, that Chicago has historically been on the higher end of the approval rate spectrum. So, like, historically, California has been good. San Francisco is usually the highest approval rate, and then Los Angeles is usually the second or third highest rate. And then usually a little bit below those is like Chicago and Arlington, Virginia. They're kind of close. So it's a good one. I can tell you that. I can tell you it's one of the better ones to have your case heard in terms of the approval rate. It's way better than down in the South. It's way better than Houston, where I used to work. It's way better than Miami. It's way better. It's way better also than some in the Northeast, like New York and Boston. Those are both bad. Those are tough ones. So Chicago's pretty good. I don't know what the approval rate is, but it's pretty good comparatively. It's still low. It's still low, in my opinion, lower than it should be, but it's one of the better offices in terms of approval rate. Alex Channel wants to know, what should I address the officer, Brian? You mean like, how should you address them? Good question. The question is this: how should you address the asylum officer in your USCIS asylum interview? Like, what do you call them? Do you call them like sir, ma'am, or officer, or your excellency, or your honor? Just call them officer. Like, yes, officer, so and so, so and so. I would say, yeah, officer. Call them officer. That's what I recommend as a former officer myself. That's what I think you should call them. Paula said, oh, wait, hold on. Who was that that just said about the video? Uh, someone said something about the videos. Amigo says, Dear Brian, thank you for every piece of information. My hearing is in October. You're welcome. Um, we should talk. Look, there's two of you who have now said that you have either a hearing or interview in October. We should talk. There's still time for us to help you. If you if you want to maximize your chances for asylum success, then you need to focus on the preparation. You need to practice. The preparation is the most important part of your case. Preparation for your case is much more important than what you say in your application. It's more important than what you say in your declaration. It's more important than your evidence. It's more important than um, having a lawyer write a legal brief. It's more important than country conditions information. It's more important than having a lawyer represent you on the day of your interview. All that stuff is good and helpful. You should do all that stuff, in my opinion. But I recognize that that's not possible for everyone. The good news is that that's not the most important. The most important part is the preparation. It's how you prepare and how you practice for the interview. And those of you who've been watching my lives for the last few days will know that just for like the last few weeks, we started offering something new. Normally it costs between $11,000 and $16,000 to hire my law firm to represent you in your full case, right? But there's a lot of people for whom that's not possible, for whom that's too much money, or either the resources is an issue, or there's not enough time to do all the things that we want to do in a full representation. Like for the two of you that said, hey, my interview's in October, it's probably not time right now for us to do the paperwork. It's not time for us to do the declaration and evidence and legal brief and country conditions information. We may or may not be able to represent you on the day of your interview, depending on the calendar. But what there is time for is the preparation. And this is the most important thing we can possibly do for you. Our clients are constantly telling us this, that the preparation that we did, especially the mock interview that we did, was the most important part of their case. It was the thing that helped them the most, okay? So look, if you want to hear all about this, all about this new service that we're offering for preparation for the interview or for your hearing in immigration court, I want you to go to this new webpage that I put up just like a week ago. Go to asylumprep.com. Okay? Asylumprep.com. In fact, I'm going to see if I can show you on my screen. Hold on, let me see if I can remember how to show things on my screen. Asylumprep.com. I put up this webpage like a week ago with, it's like super extensive. Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I can share this. Super extensive information about basically what we can do to help you prepare. We are offering this new service, a standalone service called the Mock Asylum Interview Experience. Again, it's called the Mock Asylum Interview Experience, where basically you can hire us to prepare you for the interview or the hearing. And this is something that I'm really proud of. I've been working super hard on it. asylumprep.com. Okay. That's where you can find that page and you can find out all about this service that we're offering. Go to asylumprep.com. Okay. All right, let's get back to the questions. But look, sorry, last thing. Those of you that have the interviews coming up in October, you really need to see this now. You need to do this now because we need to do the consultation first. This service that I'm telling you about, the mock asylum interview experience, you have to do a consultation with us first. You can't skip straight to the experience. You have to qualify for it. We want to talk with you in a consultation and analyze your case, and we're going to tell you whether you qualify for the experience. Okay? So the first step is a consultation. But from that page that I just showed you, there's buttons that you can click on to say, hey, go schedule a consultation. And that's how you can get there to schedule a consultation to see if you qualify for the mock asylum interview experience, aka the experience. All right, let's go to the questions. What do you want to know about winning asylum in America? For those who just joined recently, I'm Brian Manning, and I am an asylum lawyer. I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now as a lawyer, well, my law firm helps immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Let's go to the questions. Uh, do you think it matters what country you're coming from? So, like, if I'm from India, do you think my chances are good? Good question. The question is this. For purposes of trying to win your asylum case and having a good chance to win, does it matter what country you're coming from? If you're from a certain country, can we tell you, like, yeah, you definitely have a good chance, or like, no, you're not going to win because you're from this certain country? Well, look, I mean, yeah, it matters, right? Just because there's certain countries in which conditions are such that there's a lot of persecution of people based on their race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. And so if you're from one of those countries and you have one of those cases, it might be easier for us to convince the officer that this kind of thing is occurring on a grand scale, and it's happening to you, and that the authorities are unable or unwilling to help you and protect you if it's not the authorities who are the ones persecuting you. So I mean, look, yeah, it helps if you're from a country that has these kinds of conditions, but I can tell you that's not enough to win. The mere fact that you're from a country where there's a lot of persecution does not mean you're going to win. You still have to prove it in your own case. Okay, and also for countries that are developed and that don't have as many of these problems, it's not impossible to win. We've seen people win from Northern Europe, from countries that are more democratic and more open than the United States, including from like Scandinavia. So it's hard. It is hard. The approval rate is going to be much lower for Finland than it is, for Venezuela, but it's not impossible, actually. Okay. So look, the country matters, but you don't need to worry about that. You need to worry about you and your case and how you prove your particular case. Does that make sense? Green Bay, stay green. Let me know if that makes sense. All right. It's almost like I paid you to ask this question. It's me, Z, but I promise everyone I didn't. On YouTube, It's Me, Z says, hello, Brian. How does the presence of an attorney hold the interviewing officer accountable and prevent them from making egregious errors? Well, thank you for making the case with me with your question of why everyone should hire a lawyer. The question is this. Does having an asylum lawyer represent you during your interview actually make a difference? I mean, look, you may have heard that they're not really allowed to talk that much, so does it even help? Look, first of all, they are allowed to talk. You get to make a statement. The attorney gets to make a statement at the end of the interview to sort of wrap things up or highlight things or make any closing arguments they want. But also during the interview, we do talk. We do jump in, especially when it's necessary to clarify if there's been a miscommunication, like a misunderstanding. But in other instances too, we do get involved. So we do get involved. Second, yeah, it's helpful to have a lawyer for purposes of keeping the officer accountable. In my experience, both as an asylum officer, what I saw among my colleagues, and now as an asylum lawyer, what I see with our clients is that officers tend to act in a more professional manner and just do a better job when there's a lawyer involved. They're more professional. They treat clients better. They are more thoughtful and considerate and actually just do the interview better when there's a lawyer involved. So that's going to help you to have a better interview. Okay. And also just having a lawyer involved also gives the client confidence. Our clients tell us, Brian, I feel better because I know that you're participating, because your law firm is engaged in the interview and holding the officer accountable and helping, to explain the case through your closing statement at the end and just engaging and representing me. So yeah, it can make a big difference, I think. But it's not the most important thing. For those of you who've been around on this live for more than 5 minutes, let me ask you this. Pop quiz time, quiz. What is, in my opinion, Brian's opinion, what is the most important thing? Is it your application, your evidence, having a lawyer represent you during the interview, the legal brief, the preparation, the country conditions information? Which of those things do you guys think is the most important aspect of any asylum case? Let's see if you're paying attention. Um, uh-oh. No volume. Hold on. Hey, YouTube, can you hear me now? Preparation. Okay, King hears me. It said that it was muted for a second. King understood the assignment. Uh, YouTube, can you hear me now? I had two people say that, I don't know, 3 or 4 people say that the mute it was muted. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Can you hear me now? That's weird. I don't know why it was muted. All right, now it's good. TikTok, can you hear me? TikTok, Facebook, can you guys hear me? You good? Yes, yes. Okay, got it. We're back. Yeah, the preparation is the most important part. TikTok, bonus points, bonus points. Look, we got lots of people who understood the assignment. Zion, Sammy, Belna, Amigo, Queen Gojo, Akleflevlit. Yeah, lots of people got it. The preparation. Look, this is something. It's almost like I had an epiphany about this. Like I just sort of, I don't know. It just kind of came to me a few weeks ago when I was like, look, I was thinking about what is the most important thing. What happened was we had a bunch. We were having. Let me back up. As you might know, USCIS is scheduling tons of interviews right now. There's tons of capacity. This is because they're not doing any credible fear interviews, hardly at all, because there's hardly anyone coming to the border. There's almost no one coming to the border, which means that asylum officers don't have to do credible fear interviews all day by phone. Instead, they get to actually do affirmative asylum interviews. And because of that, there's a lot of asylum interviews being scheduled. And so we're getting calls constantly from people that are like, Brian, I got my interview notice. My interview is in like 10 days. Can you help me? And we're like, no, we don't have time. We don't have time to help you. Because we don't have time to do the documents. The documents take a long time. Like when we help someone with a declaration, evidence, legal brief, country conditions information, it takes several weeks. And so we're like, we don't have time. But then it occurred to me, I was like, well, what could we do to help these people that have an interview coming up very soon in like 7 days, 14 days, 20 days, 30 days? We don't have time to do the whole preparation. Excuse me, we don't have time to do the whole representation. What could we do? And then I was like, wait a second, we could do the preparation. That's something that we can get scheduled quickly. Uh, we can do the preparation. And then I was like, you know what? That's the most important thing anyway. That's the most important part of the whole case. Our clients constantly tell us this. I don't know on YouTube. Are there any of my clients on here right now on YouTube? Where's Badru? Where's Badru when you need him? He's usually on these things. Any of our clients that have gone through this with us, I think will tell you that that's the key. That's the key. Oh, I was on mute when I was sharing my other screen. Okay, thank you. Um, Got it. The most important thing is the preparation, and our clients will tell you that have been through it with us will tell you that was the key. Um, and I was like, you know what? We can do that. We can offer just the preparation for people that are on a short timeline, a short deadline that have their interview scheduled. And then I was like, you know what? Um, we can actually do this also for people that don't even have their interview scheduled yet, because what we're doing now makes it useful for them no matter whether their interview is scheduled now or it's not scheduled at all, and they might have it in 1 month, 1 year, 5 years, Because what we do is we do 2 practice sessions. The first one is a 2-hour mock interview, and the second one is a 30-minute debrief session. Well, what we do is we record those. The video, we do a video recording, and we also get the audio off of it and transcripts and summaries of those. And we're going to give you access to those so that you can keep studying those, you can keep learning from those until the day of your interview, whether your interview is 1 week from now, 1 month from now, 1 year from now, or 5 years from now. It doesn't matter. So we don't know how long we're going to offer this service. So if you think that you might want help with your case, then you might want to go look at asylumprep.com, because I don't know how long we're going to offer this service, but I think this service is going to be extremely helpful from you until you, no matter what, whether your interview is already scheduled or it has not been scheduled yet. Okay. That's what I think you should do. Go to asylumprep.com and check out that page. Look, Hermela says, or Tereng, first Terrence Anayam says, sir, I have Asylum coming on the 16th. I need your services. What's today? The 1st? You better, Terrence, go to asylumprep.com right now. Terrence on YouTube, go to asylumprep.com right now. Watch that video or read the super long web page, whichever you want. And if you think that it sounds good, click on one of the blue buttons on that page to go schedule a consultation right away. Okay? Because that is the most important thing that we can possibly do, the best thing we can do to help you win your case. You've only got 2 weeks before your interview. We got to act quickly. You need to schedule that consultation. I hope you go today to schedule the consultation, Terrence. If we do the consultation in the next few days, I think there's a few spots available this week, then we can do this. We have time to do the preparation. We have time to do the mock asylum interview experience with you, Terrence, okay? But you got to act now. You got to get it quickly. Go to asylumprep.com, like literally right now, okay? All right, yeah, so let me, I got to figure out how to still have my audio work when I'm sharing my screen. Hold on one second. Let me try that camera. Okay, yeah, I figured it out. I changed my mic. Do you guys notice I changed my microphone? I used to have the microphone that sits in front of me. I changed to this microphone the other day, and when I changed my feed to show the camera plus the screen share, I haven't hooked up this microphone yet. Got to have my audio video my video guy do that for me. That's why it wasn't working. So now I know. Don't share the screen until I get this microphone hooked up. Is it better, by the way? I don't know. Those of you who've been on a bunch of these lives lately, do you think, is the audio better with this microphone? Which is better, new or old? New or old? Let me know which audio you like better, new or old. All right, let's go back to the questions. What questions do you have about winning asylum in America? I watched all your videos and followed what you said on TikTok, says someone with a long number of usernames. Awesome. That's awesome. Nontu says your new audio. Okay, cool. Thank you, Nontu, for letting me know. Glad to know you like this one better. It is in the immigration court and I need preparation from you. Which country has more approval rate? Wants to know Amigo. Amigo, it doesn't matter. I don't know off the top of my head. There are statistics about approval rates by country in immigration court. We don't have those statistics for USCIS. We have it for immigration court, but it doesn't matter. You don't need to worry about that. You need to worry about you. You need to worry about how are you going to present the strongest case possible, okay? Amigo, go to asylumprep.com, okay? Go to asylumprep.com and see if you think that sounds like something that could possibly help you. Go to asylumprep.com, please. All right, back to YouTube for the questions. I want to know what questions you have about winning asylum in America. All right. Nice. Where did we go? Okay. So we've got, when I asked earlier about what videos were helpful, you said that helped you. You said the 133 questions. Yep. Yeah. Look, guys, I have a training that's all about the questions that you're going to be asked, okay, on the day of your asylum interview. I know what questions you're going to get more or less because I used to ask them. I've done thousands of interviews as an immigration officer. I was an asylum officer with USCIS, and before that, I was a visa officer. I did visa interviews with when I was a diplomat with the Department of State, and I have a pretty good sense for what questions you're going to get asked on the day of your asylum interview. And I made a training about this, all about these questions. You can find this training at uh, Asylum. Wait, let me just check to make sure. Asylumquestions.com. I think asylumquestions.com. Yep, that's me. Asylumquestions.com. Go to asylumquestions.com if you want to get a free training all about what questions you're going to get. Hold on, let me type this in the chat. Asylum training at asylumquestions.com. Okay. I'm going to put this video, this link to this video in YouTube right now. Asylumquestions.com. Let me go give it to you guys in TikTok. Asylumquestions.com. Asylumquestions.com. All right. If that's if you want to just get this free training about what kind of questions you're going to get in your interview or your hearing. Okay. All right. Back to YouTube. Thanks, Hermela. Yeah, the 133 asylum questions. That's what I just linked to. Is it's called the URL is asylumquestions.com. Terrence says, on it. All right, Terrence. I hope you're over there right now checking out asylumprep.com. That's where you can learn about our mock asylum interview experience. Khatet Ongluen says, sir, what should I do if I got a referral notice and a notice to appear? You got to fight your case. Look, the question is this. What should you do if you get a negative decision from the asylum office? You get what's called a notice to appear and a referral letter, which basically says, hey, we didn't approve you and we sent your case to immigration court. Look, you got to understand, you're in deportation proceedings now. The government is trying to deport you. You've got to fight your case in immigration court. You have a chance to win there, but if you don't win there, you're going to get a deportation order, and that's very serious. So look, what I recommend is talk to a lawyer immediately. Okay? Talk to a lawyer immediately because this is serious. You're in deportation proceedings now, and you need a lawyer to help you, I think. The approval rate is much, much higher for people with a lawyer. You got to be strategic about this, Katet, about how you carry out your case in immigration court. I hope you'll talk to an asylum lawyer right away. Sakashi Desai says, how much to pay for the asylum? I mean, in the website, it says it's $2,997. Look, so how it works is that's the $2,997 is what we charge for our, what's called the mock asylum interview experience. This is our preparation services where you hire us not for your representation for your entire case, but rather just to do the preparation to try to help you prepare for your asylum interview or hearing in court. And that's what costs like $3,000. If you want to hire us for your whole case from like beginning to end for full representation, it's between $11,000 and $16,000. It's a lot more. If you want to hire us just for the preparation, it's $2,997. Okay. Thomas says, but actually look, but it starts with the consultation, and the consultation is $97. Unfortunately, you can't skip straight to the mock interview sessions with us. You gotta do a consultation first. We gotta see if you qualify. Not everyone qualifies. All right. Thomas says, in your previous session, you mentioned that USCIS is interviewing using the last in, first out method, meaning those who submitted their asylum claim now get a hearing. Can you clarify, please? Yep. Thomas, happy to. The question is this. So how is USCIS going about scheduling asylum interviews these days? Look, they're on this, what's called last in, first out method, which means they try to schedule interviews as quickly as possible when someone applies. So what they do is, when applications come in, they pick it up and they say, okay, do we have a spot in the next few months that we can plug this into, an available spot with an officer that we can say, yep, we're going to assign this application to this interview spot. And if they do, they schedule it. And that's why many people who are applying right now are getting their interviews right away, sometimes within weeks of applying, very often within a month or two. Now, that means that there's people in the backlog who are not going to get their interview anytime soon. So if you applied several months ago or several years ago and you haven't gotten an interview, you're probably not going to get an interview for years to come. They are dedicating a small percentage of those open spots, the interview spots. They're dedicating a small percentage of them to the backlog, to people that applied many years ago, but it's a small percentage. If you applied several years ago for asylum, you should not expect to get an interview anytime soon. You should not expect to get it anytime soon. If you applied for asylum 5 years or more ago, then I think you're in a good position to force your interview through a mandamus lawsuit. We love this. We love helping people get their interview by suing the government. Okay. It's called a mandamus lawsuit. Our clients love it because it works incredibly well. We've had a ton of success. Look, past results don't guarantee future results, but I got to tell you, I'm pretty proud of this statistic. We filed something like 200 of these in the last 2 or so years. And look, we haven't lost one yet. I'm talking about the mandamus lawsuit. I'm talking about when we file a lawsuit to try to force an interview, we haven't lost one of these cases yet. I can't guarantee that will continue. I can't guarantee that you'll win or that we'll have success with the mandamus lawsuit in any particular case, like in your case or your case or your case or your case or any case at all. But what I do mean to emphasize in telling you this is that it's a powerful tool. It works really well. Our clients love it. Okay. All right. It's Measy says, do USCIS officers get updated on the latest country conditions? Will they know the state of interfaith couples and Muslims in India? Good question. The question is this: how do officers know about the conditions in your country? Like, did they get sent like a report that says, hey, here's what's going on in India with respect to this issue, read this so that you know these conditions, or, here's what's going on in Nigeria? Look, very rarely do they actually get sent to them like country conditions information or reports or specific things like that to read. Rather, normally they're asked to do their own research. They're asked to do their own country conditions research. And I got to tell you, sometimes they're not very good at it. Sometimes they're not very thorough because they're completely overwhelmed with work. You cannot count on the officer really knowing your country that well. But also, this is tough because at the same time, I do not encourage you to try and go in and educate the officer about it with your testimony with what you say in the interview. They don't like that. The best way to do this is to have your lawyer educate the officer through their legal brief. In our legal brief that we write, we use the country conditions information. We do the research, we use the best information available, and we talk about it in the brief, and we use it and we apply it to the facts we use the facts and the conditions in your country and apply that to the law to show how you meet the asylum eligibility requirements. And then we include those reports behind our legal brief. So that's the best way to do it, is to have your lawyer do it. And during your interview, you shouldn't be trying to educate the officer about that. You should be talking about you and your situation in your case. Okay. All right. Thanks a lot for your videos. Super helpful, says Roman Zawadsky. You're welcome, Roman. Glad that you found them helpful. Ulrich MK says, hey, Brian, I made some date mistakes while filing my form online with USCIS and also my statement. What can I do, please? Good question. The question is this. What can you do if you made some errors in your asylum application form and maybe in the declaration that you submitted as well? How do you go about trying to address that or fix them? Look, if you have a lawyer, I do recommend usually that you try to address these in writing ahead of time before your interview through your lawyer. But if you don't, look, I wouldn't worry about doing it ahead of time. Rather, I would address these things during the interview while you're reviewing your asylum application form. During every interview, the officer is going to go through your application with you. Almost every single box and question, they're going to ask you about it again. And that's your opportunity to say, oh, officer, there's some mistakes here. And I want to tell you about it. And you just tell them and you fix it, you update it. It's not a problem. You should do this also regarding your declaration while you're reviewing the application. They're not going to ask you, are there any mistakes in your declaration? But before you sign your application, where you're saying, okay, now with these edits and these updates, everything is true and correct in the application, before you get to that point, you should say, by the way, officer, there's also a couple of mistakes in my declaration that I want to tell you about. Can I do that? And you'll tell them about it and they'll say, okay, I took note of it, got it. You want to do that stuff, make the officer aware of these mistakes or these things that need to be changed or updated before you finish the review of the asylum application. Because in the next phase of the interview, which is the actual substantive questions about your case, once you get there, it's too late. It's too late. The officer will consider an inconsistency or a problem in your case if you don't raise it with them and address it before the substantive question and answers portion of the interview. Does that make sense? All right. All right. Hi, Brian. What's the most common reason for rejection? Wants to know nobody. Good question. The question is this: what's the most common reason that asylum cases get denied in the United States? Look, if you were going by what they say, what USCIS lists as the reason, they give you this generic like you failed to establish past persecution on account of protected ground. You also failed to establish that a reasonable possibility that you'll be persecuted in the future on account of protected ground. But that's just like boilerplate, meaningless language. In reality, I would say that the thing that the officer tries to point to show to convince their boss that you don't meet the requirements is two things. There's two things. They just say, well, the facts don't show that that the person has a well-founded fear of persecution because there's not a reasonable possibility that someone intends or is inclined to persecute them on account of protected ground, and that or that there exists in their country a pattern or practice of persecution. Now that's all technical. That's like all highly legalistic technical stuff, right? The other excuse it's easier to understand is they call you a liar. They say, we think you're lying, basically. They don't say those words, but they say there were too many inconsistencies in your case. Therefore, we found you not credible, which means they say we can't believe you because there was too many things that seemed off, that seemed like they contradicted each other in your case. So that's kind of an excuse they use very frequently to deny people, is they say, oh, there was too many inconsistencies, you're not credible, therefore we can't take anything you say seriously. Therefore, you haven't met your burden of showing that you meet all the requirements for asylum. Therefore, you're denied. So credibility is like the number one go-to excuse to try to justify a negative decision, even when they shouldn't be doing that. It's what officers use all the time when they just want to deny a case, but they don't have a good reason to do so. They find little things that either are or look like tiny little inconsistencies, even if you're not lying, to try to make it sound like you're a liar, and therefore they should deny you because of it. Okay. That's it. That's it. I heard Russian. Wait, hold on. Ooh, Ongmra says, my interview is coming up next week in New York. I'm preparing to submit additional documents. How important is it for my asylum case? It depends what the documents are. Documents are good. Documents are helpful if they actually support your case. Look, sometimes evidence can be counterproductive. If there are mistakes in it that are inconsistent with other things in your documents, or that just look weird or don't look right or look suspicious, it can hurt your case. So you got to be careful with evidence. But generally speaking, sure, if you have evidence that backs up what you're saying and that helps to convince the officer that you meet the asylum eligibility requirements, then sure, of course, submit it. How important is it though, you want to know? It's not super important. Officers look skeptically at most evidence anyway. They assume, it's probably fake anyway, it's probably false. So they don't take a lot of it real seriously, is my perception. What you say on the day of your interview is what matters, okay? What you say on the day of your interview, your testimony, is what really matters. And so, in my opinion, much more important than stressing about what documents you can take or submit now, what's more important than that is doing the preparation and the practice, okay? And if you think that you might want help with that, which I hope that you do because it's the most important part of your case, then I hope you'll go to asylumprep.com right now. If your interview is next week, there's still time. If you schedule the consultation for like tomorrow, if we talk with you in a consultation tomorrow, and your interview is next week, we would still have time to do the mock asylum interview experience. Okay. The mock asylum interview experience, which you can find all about at asylumprep.com. Go to this website, asylumprep.com. I've got a long video and I've got tons of information all about our preparation service that we call the mock asylum interview experience. Okay. The mock asylum interview experience. So on if you act quickly, we might still be able to support you with this service, but you got to schedule the consultation. We got to do the consultation like tomorrow, probably. Okay. All right. Can a person get married and get a green card after a negative asylum result if you came through the southern border? Yes, it may be possible, Terrence. If you marry a U.S. citizen, is the cleanest route to this. Yes, it may be possible. Roman says, I heard Russian citizens had pretty good asylum approval rates in 2024. Do you think it's changing in 2025? Roman, I know that asylum approval rates overall are going down under the Trump administration. We know this for a fact based on statistics. So it's getting harder, I think, probably for everyone to win. I seriously doubt that Russians are an exception to that. I imagine it's going down for everyone. So you got to be ready. Even given all that's going on in Russia and Ukraine, it's not like, oh, I'm a Russian, therefore I'm going to win my case. It's not like that at all. You got to be ready to put together a strong case. Okay. You got to be ready to put together a really strong case, in fact. Okay. Roman, раньше говорю по-русски, сейчас, к сожалению, нет. I studied a few times Roman in St. Petersburg. I love St. Petersburg. It's one of the greatest cities in the world. I love it. And I minored and I studied Russian language and literature in university as well. So I'm a bit of a Slavophile, a bit of a Russophile. I love Russia's a fascinating, incredible country in very many ways. And we've had a lot of success with Russian cases, Roman. We should talk. If you want to schedule a consultation with us, go to winasylum.com. Okay. If you think you might want support in your case and you might want to hire us, possibly, go to winasylum.com and schedule a consultation. Okay. WINASYLUM.com, right? Winasylum.com. Winasylum.com. All righty. Very, very good. For those who just joined recently, it looks like we had quite a few people join recently. I'm Brian Manning, and I'm an asylum lawyer. My law firm is called Political Asylum Lawyers, and we help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. WinAsylum.com is where you can go to schedule a consultation. But if you're interested in getting our help just with preparation, like to help prepare you for the interview, then you want to go to a different website. You want to go to asylumprep.com. That's where you can learn all about the mock asylum interview experience, or the experience as we call it for short. The mock asylum interview experience, the experience, okay? Alrighty. The mock asylum interview experience at asylumprep.com is where you can learn all about that. I got tons. I got a long video on there. It's like 30 minutes and it's a very long web page. It scrolls forever because I wanted to provide a lot of information because I think this is something special. I think this is something that can help a lot of people, especially people who either have an interview coming up quickly or maybe they don't have the funds to hire a lawyer for full-scale representation, which is very expensive. This service, the mock asylum interview experience, costs a fraction of what it costs to hire us for full representation in your case, okay? And so I think that's going to make it such that we can help a lot of people with this. Asylumprep.com is where you can learn more about our asylum preparation service, okay? Asylumprep.com, ASYLUMPREP.com. All righty. Let's go. Nice. Let's see. What questions do you have? Let me know in the comments what questions you have about winning asylum in America. I want to answer your questions about USA Asylum. Let me just move this over. Nice. TikTok. Sorry, I ignored you for a while. What questions do you have? What do you think about Arlington asylum officers? Arlington's pretty good as far as offices go. It's one of the better ones, I think. They usually have a pretty high approval rate, higher than than several of the offices. So Arlington's pretty good. If Arlington is where you're at, you're in a pretty good position. MHQ says, I have a pending asylum case, so I want to change my lawyer and want to give my case to you. All right, well, it starts with a consultation. All right. MHQ, it all starts with the consultation. All right. If you want to talk with us to see if we think we might be able to help you, then we'd love to talk with you in the context of what we call an asylum strategy session. We're going to talk with one of our asylum professionals. We want to get to know you. We want to understand your situation and ask you a lot of questions. This is not like a 10, 15-minute talk. This is a nearly hour-long consultation where we go deep. We're going to ask you a lot of questions and get to know you and understand your case and tell you whether we think we can support you. If we think we can, then we're going to tell you how. Okay. MHQ says, so can you help me? Where will I contact? You can contact us go to this website, go to winasylum.com. That's where you schedule the consultation, MHQ. That's where you schedule the consultation. Okay. MHQ. Okay. That's where you go to schedule the consultation. winasylum.com. winasylum.com. Okay. Have you worked with Ethiopians in Chicago? Says our random attempt. Yes. Yeah, we know Ethiopia. We know those cases well. I handled cases from Ethiopia both as an asylum officer when I was an officer with the government, and now as a lawyer in my law firm. Yeah, we know Ethiopian cases. We know the Horn of Africa pretty well, and we've had success with cases from there. Okay. What was I gonna answer now? Is Tampa's rejection rate the same as Miami? Flickr and not test file wants to know. Probably. I don't know. They don't publish. They haven't published statistics about this. But my experience, based on we have a lot of cases there in those offices. Probably similar. Yeah. Probably similar, maybe a little higher than Miami approval rate. The approval rate I think might be a little higher in Tampa than in Miami, but I'm not sure about that. That's just kind of a guess or intuition based on our cases. I don't know the actual statistics because they haven't published them. Oddly enough, says, what about Burmese asylum seekers? Absolutely. Look, past results do not guarantee future success, but I'm pretty sure we've won all of our Burmese cases. We've never lost a Burmese case. I'm pretty sure. It doesn't guarantee that we would win your case or any other Burmese case, but I can tell you that we've had a lot of success with those cases and we know them well. But look, it's not impossible to lose those. People do lose those cases. Just because you're from Burma does not mean that you will necessarily win your case. Those are getting denied, but we know them. We've had success with them. And we should talk. Go to winasylum.com if you want to schedule a consultation. Okay. We'll contact you soon. I have a strong case and lots of evidence. Okay. Well, MHQ, why soon? Why not now? Literally go right now, MHQ, and get on our schedule. Sometimes these spots fill up quickly such that you might not be able to schedule a consultation for multiple weeks. Sometimes when we get busy, when we get a lot of consultations scheduled in a row. So take advantage of the fact that there's some open spots right now for this week and go schedule it right now, MHQ. winasylum.com. 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 Can corroborating evidence be helpful for African, says Alfred? Yeah, for everyone. If you got evidence, yeah. It can help in every case, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is your preparation. Shinrei says, I didn't prepare well for my interview because I meet last in the first off. Should I go to the interview? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Shinrei, maybe you set up above, but I didn't see it. When is your interview, Shinrei? I mean, well, look, let me address it like this. The question is this: should you go to your interview if you weren't expecting for it to get scheduled and then it did get scheduled and you feel like you're not quite prepared? Look, a lot of people are getting surprised by the fact that they're getting their interview scheduled. Most of the time, this is people who have applied recently, and they're surprised when they get the interview notice right away, sometimes within weeks of applying, because they're like, hey, I know all these people, other people who've applied for asylum, and they've been waiting years for their interview, so I didn't expect to get mine, but I got mine right away. And you're caught off guard, and you're not ready. I think you should do your interview. I think that if you ask to reschedule, it's not as good because look, usually they do the reschedules pretty quickly within a month or two or three, but sometimes those cases fall through the cracks such that you might not have your interview for several months or maybe even years. And I think the sooner you have your interview, the better your chances for success. So I think that it's better to just go ahead with the interview, and so you don't risk it falling through the cracks and you don't get your interview for 2, 5, 10 years. So I think you should do the interview, and I think you should focus on the preparation. The preparation is the most important part of the case. And we just started offering a special service that's all about the preparation for the asylum interview. You can find tons of information about this service called the Mock Asylum Interview Experience over on this webpage, asylumprep.com. Go to asylumprep.com, and we can usually accommodate people on a very short notice. If you have at least 1 week before your interview, and we do a consultation with you with at least 1 week before your interview, that's enough time for us to get this done. And that's the most important thing that we can do to help you. The biggest help we can possibly give to you is this preparation. And we're offering it as a special standalone service right now. And you can find information about it at asylumprep.com. Go to asylumprep.com. Okay. All right. If you're on the J1 visa, what's the appropriate time to submit your asylum application? Brenda wants to know on TikTok. Brenda, so look, yeah, the question is this. What's the best timeline for submitting your asylum application if you're here on a student visa or like an F1 or maybe a J1 visa? Look, doesn't matter what your status is. Doesn't matter whether you do have status or you're like a long-term like J1 or F1 or maybe tourist status or maybe no status. The sooner you apply, in my opinion, the better. I think the sooner that you submit your application, the better your chances for success. Because the sooner that you have your interview and get to explain your case and then get a decision, the better your chances for success. Look, also, in addition to it just being better substantively in terms of your chances for success, remember that also the sooner you apply for asylum, the sooner you can get your work permit. So that's another benefit of applying sooner rather than later. So there's no reason to wait. I think also in the officer's eyes, it looks better when someone applies sooner rather than later. It looks like you're a more serious person who really was intending on, fleeing your country for the purpose of seeking asylum. I think it just looks a little bit better. And I say that as a former asylum officer myself, okay? So the sooner the better. Brenda. How can I easily know if he's going to win your asylum at court after credible fear finding while in detention? You can't know that. Genuine soul, there is no way to know that. The fact that you got a positive credible fear determination does not mean that you're necessarily going to win your asylum case in immigration court. Many people get a positive credible fear finding, but then they lose their case in immigration court. Okay. Is waiting 3 years for an interview enough for applying for mandamus in the Arlington office, says EY? Not for my law firm. We're doing a minimum of 5 years now, all over the country. I'm not saying it's impossible, EY, to have success with the mandamus lawsuit at 3 years, but you're probably going to get, you're probably gonna have to fight it out to the very bitter end in federal court, which will be a long and costly process. Okay, so in my office, we're only taking mandamus cases where the person's been waiting at least 5 years. Okay. 5 years is our minimum, but I'm not saying you can't win at 3 years, but we would only do it at 5 years. But look, we can still help you, right? Even if we're not ready to do a mandamus lawsuit for you, we can help you in other ways right now. We can help you with your paperwork. We can do what's called an asylum roadmap, which is all the paperwork. We help people with the declaration, evidence. We write a legal brief. And we also do the country conditions information. And we can do that now. And we can also do the preparation now. We can do the preparation for your interview now, even though you don't have an interview scheduled, because we do 2 practice sessions. We do a 2-hour mock interview session, and then we do a 30-minute debrief session. And we record both of those, the audio and the video, and we have transcripts and we have AI produced summary so that you can keep accessing those things up until the minute of your interview. So whether your interview is 1 week from now, 1 month from now, 1 year from now, or 5 years from now, you can still benefit from our mock asylum interview experience right now. Okay. And I don't know how long we're going to offer this. Um, I don't know how long we're going to keep offering this. So if you think you might want that kind of help, take advantage of it, okay? And go check out right now this webpage, asylumprep.com. And if you think that if you go there and you think, yeah, this could help me, then you can click on the blue buttons on that page to go schedule a consultation, okay? Because that's the first step is a consultation. All right, asylumprep.com to learn about the mock asylum interview experience. And from that page, click on the blue buttons to go schedule a consultation with us, okay? All right. Chucky Jr. wants to know, can my friend apply for a green card after her visa expires? She renewed it, but from college. The question is this. Can you apply for asylum in the United States after your status expires? So let's say you came on a tourist status or maybe student status, and that status ended because it just the time they gave you, which on a tourist status is usually 6 months, right? Let's say you get past those 6 months. Can you still apply for asylum? Yes. Yes. It doesn't matter your status. In fact, you can apply without ever having had any status at all. Okay? The status thing doesn't matter for applying for asylum. What matters is that you apply during your first year. If you don't apply during your first year in the United States, then you're not going to get asylum unless you qualify for an exception. Now, in these cases, status does matter, but it gets a little bit complicated, a little bit tricky. If you're considering applying for asylum and you've already been here at least 1 year or more, then you should talk with an asylum lawyer about your options and whether it makes sense to apply and whether you might qualify for an exception to the 1 year filing deadline. Okay. All right. Nice. Okay. Very nice. Solomon Baldwin says, I'm getting my decision this week on Thursday. Wow, that's exciting. Are you going to pick it up? I guess you're going to pick it up. If you know that you're getting it on Thursday, then that means it's a pickup and not a mail out. Wow, exciting. Uh, very good stuff. Very good stuff. All right, nice. For those who just joined recently, I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer. I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now as a lawyer, well, my law firm, Political Asylum Lawyers, we help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. That's what we do all day, every day as asylum. All right. Um, so, uh, uh, nice. So, Abdul Karim says, Ramadan says, how's asylum in the San Antonio Immigration Court? It's okay. It's better. It's not a high approval rate, but it's better. It's a higher approval rate than the courts in Dallas and Houston for sure. Yeah, I definitely prefer San Antonio to Dallas and Houston. So yeah, good luck, Abdul Karim. H says, have you worked with Ethiopians before? Yeah, I had that question a second ago on TikTok from someone else. Yep. Yeah, we have. We've had success with these cases. We know the Horn of Africa pretty well. And I love helping folks from Ethiopia. Uh, ES says, how did you transition from AO to immigration attorney? This is coming from a current AO licensed attorney thinking about transitioning. Cool. So we have, hey, yeah. So, yeah. So if you're still on ES, yeah, the question is this. So how did I go about transitioning from being an asylum officer with the government to becoming an asylum lawyer? Well, look, I got tired of it. Look, being an asylum officer is hard. It's emotionally taxing, and the work can be very demanding. The environment is not great. Morale is low at the asylum offices. Every year, the federal government does a survey about like the overall sort of job satisfaction among the different agencies in the government. And the Department of Homeland Security, of which USCIS is part, always ranks near the bottom. Like it's always one of the lowest ones. People are not happy working there. And at the asylum office, people are not happy working there. People don't last usually more than a year or two as an asylum officer because of various reasons, but it's just not a good place to be. But for me, and so I got tired of it, but more than that, more than anything, I got tired of what I felt like were increasing expectations, increasingly strident, that we deny people. This was during the Trump administration's first term. I started in the summer of 2017. And as I was going through my time there over the 2.5 years that I was there, I felt like there was increasingly more and more pressure to deny people, to like try to find reasons and excuses to deny people. And I got sick of that. I thought that was not right. And I decided, look, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to be involved with this. And I want to actually advocate for people and represent people and help them tell their stories, and help deserving people win asylum. So that's why I decided to do it. How did I transition? I just quit and started a law firm, which is kind of a scary thing to do. I didn't, I was starting a law firm with no clients, no existing clients, no obvious way to get clients. But I figured it would work. I thought I could, convince people that I had something unique to offer them, especially having this insider experience from the other side of the desk. And so now it's been 5.5 years that I've had my law firm, and it's coming along well. We've grown very quickly as a law firm. We have, as of today, I think 43 employees. And no, I think we have 43 employees. And we've helped a whole lot of people to secure their future in America through asylum. So yeah, it's been good. All right. Can I bring additional documents to the interview on the interview day itself? It's next week at Bethpage, New York office. Go to winasylum.com and schedule a consultation. Or actually, go to asylumprep.com. That's what we can help you with right now, is the mock asylum interview experience, okay? Asylumprep.com is where you can find information about that. Back to your question. The question is this: can you take additional documents like evidence or country conditions information, things like that? Can you take additional documents with you to be considered on the day of your interview? Look, you can, but they might they might accept it with no problem, but they might just reject it and say, nope, sorry, we're going forward with the interview, but we're not going to consider your documents. Or most likely, or there's a pretty good chance that they'll say, well, look, you have two options. Either we go with the interview and I don't consider it, or we reschedule your interview to give me time to review all of the stuff that you just brought in. So if you take a bunch of documents with you, you risk being told, well, look, we're going to have to reschedule. And that's not good. In general, in my opinion, the sooner you get your interview, the better your chances for success. So I would not do that. I would send them in ahead of time. Okay. Ideally a week before, at least several days before. Okay. All right. Is it okay if I don't take a lawyer to my assignment interview? Wants to know Thoraya to Mary. Yeah, I mean, you're not required to. I think it helps. I think, as I was explaining earlier, I think your chances for success are probably higher if you do have a lawyer, because I think lawyers tend to help ensure that having a lawyer there helps ensure the officer tends to be more professional and treat you better and to do things properly. So I think I think the chances for success are better with a lawyer, but no, you don't have to take one. You don't have to have one represent you during it. All right. Brian Sijabat says, what website? If you're asking me what website you can go to learn about our asylum preparation, it's, I'm going to put it on the screen, but I'm also going to put it in the chat. I'm going to put interview preparation, asylumprep.com is the website, asylumprep.com. I'm putting it on the screen, but I'm also going to put it in the chat right now, asylumprep.com. That's where you can go to get information about our asylum preparation services, which we call the mock asylum interview experience. Okay. Hello from DC, says Twinkling Sand. Nice. Hey, Twinkling Sand, good to see you. I love DC. Great city. My fiance niece just submitted for adjustment of status. Her lawyer had her mail in the package, but the office receives the information. Is that normal? Well, I don't do adjustment of status except for asylees. But is it normal to have, for the lawyer to have like the client mail something themselves? Not really. Nobody wants to. Yeah, it's not really that normal. It's usually the lawyer mails the stuff for the client. Um, does having an ongoing psychological issue related to past persecution help to establish a well-founded fear of persecution in the future, or do you still have to convince them you're at risk? Look, you have to convince them that you're at risk of future persecution unless you establish that the past persecution was like especially severe, like really severe, or that you're at risk of other serious harm in the future, even if that harm is not related to a protected ground. But nobody, look, for your case, you need to think of it like you you still need to try to convince the officer that you're at risk. I mean, assuming that you believe that you are, then you need to convince them of that. Okay. Um, yeah, you should not go into it thinking, oh, as long as I show them that I'm still suffering psychologically, then I don't need to show that I have a well-founded fear of future persecution. Outside of that, no, that's not the best approach to think about it. Okay, you showing that you're still suffering the psychological impact effects of past harm helps to establish that the past harm was in fact sufficiently severe to constitute persecution, and it might help you establish or qualify for a grant of what's called humanitarian asylum, where you don't need to show a well-founded fear of future persecution, but that's rare and really hard to do. You should think about it as, no, I mean, if you are afraid of future harm, you need to explain that to the officer, okay? But you also do want to explain to them the ongoing effects, okay, that you're suffering from, okay? Oh, good question. Joe Amara says, Brian, during asylum interview, are taxes questions being asked? Um, the question is this: are you going to get asked at your asylum interview about taxes, like whether you've paid taxes that you're supposed to pay? Almost certainly not. No. Look, when I was an asylum officer, we were never instructed to ask about this. In my law firm now, I don't think we've ever seen this question asked. Anything about your taxes? It's not impossible for it to be asked, but I think it's very unlikely. I wouldn't probably worry about it because I think it's so unlikely. So there you go. Is it difficult to become an asylum officer? Sabrina Gomez wants to know. No, no. They lowered the requirements. It used to be kind of difficult. They lowered the requirements a couple years or so ago, and there's not really many requirements honestly now. So it's not, no, it's not very hard now. All right. Can I appeal the asylum office? I did the interview and I got the decision. They transferred me to court next month. No, Sam, you're in immigration court proceedings now, and you got to fight your case in immigration court. It's not really an appeal, but it's like a second chance. The judge is going to consider your case, and you might be able to win. So think of it as another chance where you got to convince the judge that you deserve asylum. All right, that's going to be it for today, guys. Look, if you are interested in learning about our asylum interview preparation services, then I want you to go to this website that I just put up recently, asylumprep.com, where I've got tons of information about this service, what we're offering now, called the mock asylum interview experience. Okay. But if you already know that you want that, or you want to learn about that, if you already know that you want to, let me rephrase that. If you want to hire us for like full scale representation in your case, then we want you to do a consultation that you can schedule here at winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com, winasylum.com. Okay. I'm Brian Manning. It's truly a pleasure and honor to support you in your asylum journey. So thank you for being with us, and I look forward to seeing you guys. We'll be live again tomorrow. What's